Hey friends, welcome back to MTG. My name is Ken, and today we are taking a sneak peek at what one of the 3 new pre-constructed decks you can buy on Arena look like, and I'm going to give my opinions on whether or not I think you should buy them. If it's not going to give it away already, this video is not in the style of my typical videos. There's not going to be any gameplay footage. I tried to record it, didn't work out so well, so instead I decided to jump straight into the deck and just go through it and give my opinions on it. Usually I try and be a little more positive on the channel and try and show what cards and decks can do, but I'll be honest, this is just 30 minutes of me getting more progressively angry and upset. It might seem out of character for me. I know I was quite shocked just how upset and egregious things got, but I think it's important. I think people need to know, and I wanted to give all the information to you so you can make a better informed decision on whether or not you think you want to buy this. So let's jump into it. We're just going to go through everything, and I'm going to give my feedback and give my very honest critique on what I think this deck does right and what it does wrong. So let's just jump into it. All right, we need to talk about the Raiyuu Storm's Edge Precon deck that was put up on the store for MTGArena. It's quite unfortunate. I really wanted these decks to be something that were affordable, set you up with a lot of good cards, and also something that you can play. I was hoping that maybe the matchmaking system would take these decks into consideration, especially unchanged versions of these decks, and help you kind of, you know, play with people who maybe also play with these style decks, or just play with a lower power level in general. Getting into the deck here, I figured we will still go through it. I haven't organized the cards. I haven't like scanned through this list. I've played 7 or 8 games with the deck, so I've seen some things. I have some opinions on some cards, but I kind of thought we would just go through it. I would give my opinion and we would just go from there. I mean, without mincing words, I don't think this is worth the value. Not in a long shot. If these decks were free, the way they offer free standard decks when you sign up, or I think they refresh them every rotation, but they give you essentially those decks that you get to play for free, get your little dailies, get yourself kind of started. If it was one of those, I think, yeah, it's fine. You can't ask a lot of it, but the fact that this costs the amount it does, yeah, it you know, it's just not worth it. I try and focus on like the positivities and the good side of Magic and Arena, but in this case, it's just, I just have to be honest with it. A few other things of note before I get into the cards individually is playing this deck in general, I can only describe best as playing a draft where you're putting together the cards that should work, might work, can get stuff done, but in a draft scenario, you're obviously playing with other people in that, and you're not. You're playing against people with these very tuned, highly synergistic, well thought out decks, and the combination of cards here just isn't cutting it, unfortunately. And I think there is something here. This commander, I think, is very good and has a lot of potential, and there's a lot of pieces that I think belong in this deck, but as for something ready to kind of, you know, open and play, as you would say, it's just not there yet. So let's start. We'll go through the 1 manas and kind of give my feedback. If something feels like it's belongs, I won't spend a lot of time on it. We're more just trying to pick out the cards that are just like, why is this in this deck? We have a lot of 1 mana warrior samurais. Those are safe includes, I think. The evasion is important. This is a 1 mana, synergizes with the commander. It has the same clause on it as far as when they attack alone. It makes sense. I think the beginning of the kind of what's happening here is with the Gleeful Demolition. It is a 1 mana artifact removal spell, but a card like this usually is meant to hit something of your opponent, or sorry, not of your opponent, it's something of your own, to give you those 3 hasty little goblins. Maybe they don't have haste. I don't know why I thought they had haste. The point is, it's supposed to get you a bunch of little goblins and then get you, you know, playing aggro, because we were playing an aggro deck after all. But it just doesn't seem seem like it. There's no artifacts in the deck, really. We have a few here, but these are more integral pieces. We don't create a ton of, you know, incidental artifacts. I think some treasure is formed here. We do have Professional Facebreaker, which, yeah, is an absolute include in this deck, but still, overall, I don't know. It just feels like a weird include, especially when we're missing, like, just such easy includes, like a Braid. Lightning Bolt, I know Lightning Bolt doesn't deal with artifacts, but just some of these well-costed, always good removal pieces, they're just missing in this deck, and I don't understand why. Play with Fire, yeah, I think that's a good include. It's something I put in a lot of my red mono red or like 2-color red aggro decks. Kamano, I get it, this card's good. It was very good in Standard. It doesn't do much for the synergy. I mean, we create a human shaman at the end of this, and that's not a samurai or a warrior. So the stuff you get at the beginning, yeah, you deal 1 damage, something gets counter, that's great, but really, I just think there are 1,000 better options in this in the deck. Rabbit Battery, it's equipment. They have kind of a bit of reconfigure sub-theme here with some of these cards. It gives haste. I can kind of see it. This deck wants to do artifacts and enchantments, or I should say equipments and auras, but it just kind of is a little haphazardly and doesn't really lean into one or the other. Reinforced Ronin, great. Good include. Low mana. It's got some utility. It can be channeled to draw a card. It's got haste. It bounces. This is a great include. Like, this makes sense. Eater of Virtue, you know, if we're leaning into the equipments, sure. It's an equipment. It's Kamigawa. It's flavorful. It's a samurai sword. Like, that makes sense. So, like, cards like these, yeah, I get it. That's good. But then we have these other cards that is just kind of like, I don't know why they're in here. Going into the 2 mana, again, I think that is a perfectly fine. This as well, a good include. Angel of Unity. Cares about party. So party is cleric, rogue, warrior, wizard. Warrior we got. Warrior is 50% of what we care about. I don't know why we need a party matters card in this deck. Sure, we're probably going to always have at least one of them. 2 with this, so I guess it's a little bit of a benefit, but it just seems kind of a weird, like, I don't know. Just a lot better cards can be put in places of these cards, and I think it would just help overall. Cooped Up, we have a lot of these low mana enchant auras. You enchant your opponent's stuff. It makes sense. They all mean your opponent's stuff can't block, which is great. We want to get through with damage, but there's cards like Ossification, and it's in this deck, obviously, but tons of them in this, especially in white, especially on Arena, because we've been getting so many of them lately, that they're enchantment auras, but they just get rid of something. A lot of these just prevent them from attacking or blocking, which is fine, but a lot of the time people don't care to attack or block. They want what their creature is doing, right? Whether it's a trigger ability or a activated ability. So there are cards that shut that thing down, but I just don't feel, I feel like we have too many of these. We have too many of can attack, cannot block, whoop-de-doo. There are just better cards that do that and more. And look how much 2 mana stuff we have. We can have something maybe in the 3 mana. Like the Borrow Time, fantastic, great. It deals with something. It doesn't just, you know, nullify it. Even like, I think Pacifism might kind of turn off the card. I can't remember off the top of my head for sure, but Banishing Light's another one that just deals with it. What's better than something that can't block? Nothing at all. Hold for Ransom, again, same thing. Cooped Up, Hold for Ransom. There's a few of them here. I think there are better options. Cat Warrior puts a counter, 2 mana, sure, it's fine. Lion Sash, I think, is a good include, kind of like the Rabbit Battery. It is an equipment. It does provide graveyard hate. I use this card like crazy during some of my games, especially against cards that, or decks that cared about the graveyard. But Ossification, yes, include, absolutely. I think this card is great. Realm Breaker's Grasp, can attack or block. Its activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Okay, so we've shut down it slightly. We got activate abilities down, but there's still triggered abilities. There's still better cards, I think. Selfless Samurai. Great, perfect. I would say any card, as long as it's Warrior Samurai, it's probably good enough. I mean, I think we could probably go and look and see just how many that are out there that aren't included. Maybe we'll do that after. We'll just do a quick kind of search and see what could have been in this deck. Twin Blade, yep. Warrior, good enough, sure. Valorous Stance. Protection, sort of conditional removal, like it's modal. I get it. You don't see this used. It might come in handy. There's a lot of good cards in this 2-mana slot that I think do a very similar thing or better. Banishing Slash. I mean, yeah, enchantment, artifact. If we're going for that equipment aura, I think this is on flavor. And again, like I will always, in this case, say if it's a Kamigawa, if it's a Neon Dynasty card, at least it's trying to go for the flavor. Not saying it's good, but it's going for the flavor at least. Human Warrior. Okay, Warrior, perfect. We've got some more Samurais. We've got some more Warriors. We've got Samurais. Impact Tremors. I don't know why this is in this deck. I mean, we're running, let's see, how many creatures are we running? 34 creatures. I would say for a deck like this that's leaning more towards artifacts and enchantments, auras, equipments. I don't know why I always just say the other one. And the deck that cares about attacking, like just one creature attacking, I get that, like the first combat they attack alone and then everything else goes with it. That makes sense. But we're not really going for like a go wide, tons of tokens. So Impact Tremors, that's like a few pieces of incidental value. Like it's not it. Kami's Flame deals 3 damage to target creature, 2 damage to the controller if you control modified. Sure, if we're leaning into the modified, that's probably fine. It's a 2-mana lightning bolt with some extra, you know, gravy, I guess. Lightning Strike, yeah, it's good. It's clean at least. I think this is a perfectly fine spell. I would say Sacred Fire as well is probably good enough. Yavimaya Steel Crusher, yeah, oh geez, words. Yavimaya Steel Crusher, I think is a great include. It's a warrior and it's removal. It's checking at least 2 boxes. This is perfectly fine. Something I would include myself. Arcane Signet, I mean, obviously. Black Blade, sure. It's an artifact. It's a equipment. It's kind of going in that theme. Again, we don't have a lot of it at all, really. The only equipments we have is we have the battery, the Eater of Virtue, Black Blade, and where did it go? Lion Sash. That's it. 5, sorry. We have 5 equipments. That's not enough. That's not doing it. This is just dabbling in a bunch of different things, but not really committing to any one specific thing. Into the 3-mana, we've got Borrow Time. Great, makes sense. Cleaving Skyrider. Enters if it was kicked. Yeah, it's a warrior. It has flying. I think evasion is very important in a deck like this, and usually flying is enough evasion for it to be worth running. Whenever Samurai... Yeah, like this... It casts enchantment cards from your graveyard this turn. So it's got the claws, Samurai Warrior. Great. How many enchantment spells are we running in this deck? Let's take a look. 11. So where'd we go? Here, Norika. 11, that is 11% of the deck. But we also need one of those 11 cards to be in the graveyard. It's just not good enough. We need more enchantments. I think this card is great, but it's not great in this deck because I don't think there's enough attention being put into enchantments for it to matter. But again, this is supposed to be a aura equipment deck, but there's not really enough of either combined. I mean, we 11 enchantments, and those aren't even all auras, but even if we said they are all auras, 11 enchantments, 5, that's 16. For a deck, I would say at minimum, for something like that, 25 to 30 cards of whatever you want it specifically to be, I would say is the range you want to be. Auras and equipments, understandably, that number might be slightly lower because you need the creatures as well to put them on, but it just doesn't feel like it's committing to anything really. Sigarda's Imprisonment, can't attack or block, 3 mana. We have so many better spells than this. 5 mana, exile it, you get the blood, so that's an 8 mana investment to exile 1 creature. It's just not good enough, not in this meta. Casually, or maybe in a pool of players who are playing just kind of this draft chaff kind of, you know, maybe that's dismissive. This lower power, more budget friendly, then that's fine. But just, we're going against Muldrothas, we're going against Chatterfangs, Narsets. There's not really any consideration to who we face, and these cards just don't cut it for those kind of decks. Blade Graft Aspirant, equipment spells cost 1 less to cast. Sweet, we've discounted 5 cards of our deck. Activate ability of equipments you control that target this, cost 1 less. I'll leave it at that. This craving of enough, is that enough? Oh, whatever. Cool. I've never seen this card before. I kind of like it in this. It's giving, where we go? It's giving haste. It's giving a good power boost. It's kind of a bit of a reckless card, right? Like you can return it, but then the creature gets 1/1 less, and I kind of like it in a deck like this, right? It's aggro. It feels like this would fit. It is an aura if you're trying to go for that strategy. So like that makes sense. Furnace Punisher. This card is a 3/3 menace. Ignore the rest of the text because it does not matter. Maybe against facing a certain, like a specific 5-color deck with a very complex mana base. Sure, but the reality is most decks on Arena and on Brawl, they're running enough basics for it to not matter. You only need 2 or more, and then this card does nothing. It's just not good enough for a 3 mana slot for something that will maybe deal 2 damage, probably will never. Warmonger may reveal a dragon card. How many dragons are in this deck? Like, this is another card that I haven't seen until this point. We have 1 dragon. Okay, so there is such a low chance this card is in here to maybe get 1 dragon out of your deck. We have 1 dragon. Why is this card in here? Like, I don't get it. Like, and we're paying money for this, and like, it's frustrating. Truly, I don't understand the thought process in putting this deck together. It's just, it's bad. Phyrexian Warrior, when it enters, put 2 oil counters on target artifact or creature you control. At the beginning of step, return it to its owner's hand unless you remove 2 oil counters from it. Is this like alpha? Like, we're paying 3 mana for a 3/2 with haste, but it's got like restrictions. We don't care about oil counters. Return it to its owner's hand unless you move 2 oil counters from it. Unless we're intentionally trying to bounce it back to our hand to protect it. But I mean, Reinforced Ronin's doing the same thing for 1 mana. There's a reason we don't see a lot of these cards is just because they're not good, and especially in this scenario. This card cares about day and night. And there's so far nothing that gives us day or night in this deck. It's maddening. And like, I'm sorry. I usually don't get this like worked up over something, but where this doesn't even make it day or night. So like, are we relying on our opponents to start the day night cycle? Like, no, nothing for day. I don't know if I'm actually searching this up right. Okay, here I am. Okay. So there's nothing in this deck that makes it day bound or night. So essentially this is just a really bad, this is draft chaff. This is the stuff you get in a draft. You're like, I'm going to pay 3 mana for, but it's a removal spell. There's so many great cards in this format now. There is no need for this card to be ran, like, at all. Professional Facebreaker, fantastic, belongs in this deck. Like, an obvious include. This is probably the best card in the deck, and probably the only card, at least up to this point, that is something that would be useful to put in other decks. Urbask Forge, it seems out of place here. So it's creating these, yeah, it's aggro, they come down, they attack. But again, we're caring about attacking with humans, samurais and warriors, attacking, one creature attacking. Like, the horror can attack during the second combat, that's fine, I guess, but it just doesn't seem like it fits into the kind of strategy we're going for. Sorry, Captain, War Leader, yeah, yep, these make sense. I think these are includes you would have in this deck no matter what. Imperial Blade Master, absolutely, it goes hand in hand with the commander, but even to that effect, this isn't a card you're ever going to use. So in total we have, I believe, about 14 rares, 2 mythics, 14 or 15, give or take. So while this card is fantastic in this deck, like, I get it, it makes sense, it's an auto include, it's still not going to be something you're really going to run in any of your other decks. So just financially, I'm still not seeing it at all. Let's go to the 4 mana. Have what, 5-6 cards in the 4 mana slot? That's fine, pretty typical. We have an Emiri Captain. Put a counter for each creature in your party. Okay, this is a warrior. This counts as 1. So this creature is coming in with 1 counter on it. Again, let's look into here and see. Okay, we have 1 cleric, which is the cleric that cares about party. We have warrior 17. Yeah, that's expected. Wizards and rogues, not either. So this 4 mana card, which Flying Vigilance, great, it's a 1/1, it comes in with a 1 counter. If you have Angel of Unity out, it will come in with 2 counters for 4 mana. Like, I mean, okay, just breathe. Cut in. Here is a removal spell that gives you an aura. Okay, if we're leaning into that, that's fine. It's overcosted. It's sorcery speed. The aura it gives isn't really that good, but okay, if you're trying to go for the aura, you're checking 2 boxes. Sure, way better options. Okay, cast target artifact card from your graveyard this turn. Is this like the foil to the Nariko? Haiko? Narika? Yeah, obviously. They seem... Okay, one cares about one thing, the other cares about the other. Artifacts. We have 8 artifacts, so you better hope at least one of those artifacts is in your graveyard when you want to attack with this creature. Otherwise, you're paying 4 mana for a 3/3 Trampler. Itsushi is great. I put Itsushi in a ton of decks. It's great value. It's not a warrior. It's not a samurai, but it's from Kamigawa, so like I can give it that at least. I think, honestly, extra mana. Instead of this, I would just go for the Goldspan Dragon because it gives you mana faster. We need mana. It's from Boros. But Atsushi, I'm not going to be mad at that. It is a great card to now like have in your collection. If you did buy this deck, sorry if you did. But if you did, hey, at least we have an Atsushi. You can use that forever. Imodane, Human Knight, not a samurai, not a warrior, but says whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control that targets only a single creature deals damage to that creature, Imodane deals that much damage to each opponent. We're not really burning. We have some incidental burn because that's the removal in red. But Imodane in the 99 just seems... It's not even a samurai. It's not even a warrior. Why is this card in this deck? Okay, it's rare. Great. It's in our collection. We can use it. Maybe we'll build a deck with this in the future because it's there. But like other reasons as to why it's in this deck, I don't get. Bruce Tarl. Super fun card. Flavorful, silly, makes Ox. Cool. Oxen you control have double strike. Fantastic. When it enters or attacks, you exile the top card of your library. If it's a land, you get a Ox. Otherwise, you may cast it. Sure, it's a warrior. It's fine. It, like, I think, again, it doesn't really fit in this deck, but whatever. At least it's a warrior. At least it's, you know, doing something. The Shattered States era, you know, this can be a win con. Sure, you take your opponent's big, crazy creature, you attack with it. It gives a little bit of a buff on chapter 2, and then it comes back, and we have a samurai with trample and haste. Sure, 5 mana. Really needs to be doing more, but at least it's on flavor, and at least it somewhat makes sense in this deck. Zealous Conscripts is a warrior. Yeah, I mean, it's like a more concise version of the Shattered State era. Haste, gain control target permanent until end of turn. Yeah, I mean, we don't need this. We have this. This does the most important stuff we need anyways, and it's a warrior, so great. Sure, put in the deck. It makes sense. Burn Down the House. I run this card all the time. It is a fantastic board wipe when you have red and you don't have white. We have white. There are so many board wipes that you could put in this deck. There are ones that are exile number of creatures. There's ones with conditions that can like be situational. Why don't we have any board wipes except a Burn Down the House that deals 5 damage? Like, it is great in a situation where you don't have white, but we're in white and we don't have a single proper board wipe in this deck. Like, you're just set up to fail no matter what. Urabrask the Hidden. It's a Praetor that gives things haste and things come in tapped. I could see an argument for why this is in the deck. It's a mythic. Cool. You don't really use Urabrask the Hidden much. At least I don't in my builds, but it might be important to some decks, I suppose. The last card. Okay, 6 mana Phyrexian Samurai. Perfect. At least we're a samurai. When it enters, you exile target creature opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield, and you can plane cycle it. It's overcosted significantly. It's got no evasion. It's got no keywords. It's just a draft chaff. I keep saying that, but that's what this feels like. This feels like a deck put together from a pool of however many cards you had, and you're just like, okay, you know what? Perfect. At least it can do maybe something. Like, the choices made in this deck, I would say, are borderline egregious. Like, why do we have a card that cares about day and night when we have not a single way to make day and night happen? Like, this is just perfectly summed up to, like, the problem with this deck. And let's just move to the land base. Oh, I'm getting worked up. I apologize. I'll try and end on a happy note. We'll see. Plains, mountains. Okay, that's fine. We are running, let's confirm, we are running 40 lands. Perfect. We're hitting that magic number that Arena seems to care about. Let's go through and see what our mana base looks like. Braided Bluffs. It's a dual land. It comes in taps, deals 1 damage. I think there are better lands. There are better budget lands too. Alpine Meadow. It's got the basic land type written on it, right? It's Mountain Plains. But in a situation like this, it doesn't matter. We're not running shocks. We're not running anything that cares about that or wants to look that up. So in general, I would just say cut it for a better dual land. X-Guard Armory. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's, you know, it gets you something out of your library, aura or equipment. I used this in one game as a last-ditch effort, and that's when I realized we aren't running any real good auras or equipments. But if that's a strategy you're leaning into, yeah, this makes sense. Battlefield Forge, great. It's a good card. I run this in a lot of my 2-color decks. Lower Hold Campus, there's just better cards. We're in 2 colors. We're not really hurting for dual lands as much. Scared Peaks, Yeah, one or the other. If we care about snow permanents, then I would go this one. I don't think both are necessary. There's other options. Sundown Pass, fantastic. Auto include. I'm at least glad it's in your collection now. Great land. Temple of Triumph 2. It's a tap land, but I really like the Scry lands. I've started running a lot more Scry lands, a lot more Surveil lands. So absolutely, I think this is a perfectly fine include. Windscarred Craig. Not great, but okay. It's they love these cards in Precon, so I mean, they're staying true to that. Captivating Cave. Sack it to put 2 counters. Activate as a sorcery. Yeah, it's pretty incidental. It's probably fine. Command Tower, I mean, yeah, obviously, it's Command Tower. But that's a list. It's really, really, really upsetting. So, in a deck of 100 cards, we have 2 cards that say draw. We have Reinforced Ronin, which is a channel ability, 1-time draw. We have Hold for Ransom. 7 mana, its controller may draw a card. There is not a single piece of reliable card draw in this entire deck. At all. Like, none. We have a 1-time draw effect, and this, which is intended to be put on your opponent's stuff, so you're giving your opponent a card for 7 mana. Like, come on. I genuinely do not understand how this deck can be worth the money it is in the state that it is in. Like, card draw is the most basic part of Magic, and without it, you're on your face most of the time, and this deck is not strong enough to be played 1 card at a time as you draw it. It's just not. So, just absolutely so disappointing. Truly. I'm almost at a loss for words at this point. Please do not waste your money on this. It is an absolute disappointment. I think this idea of having pre-constructed Brawl decks just to hop in, buy, and play is fantastic, but the lack of care and heart that went into this, and like, it's just astounding. Truly, it's very disappointing. Okay, if we have the limit, we can only have 15 rares, 2 mythics, everything else has to be common and common. That's fine. There's still room to make a deck that is viable and can at least perform like consistently. But what we have here is just a pile of cards that were haphazardly put together with no real thought at all. Like, 0 card draw in a deck is just beyond maddening. I mean, I don't know. Don't buy it. Let me know what you think. I think it's a cool commander. I think it's a cool idea. There are pieces in here that I think could make for a great deck, but don't buy this to play it. Don't buy this as a starting point. Don't buy this for the cards. Just save up your wild cards, save up your coins, buy packs. It's a lot easier to put something great together. It's just not worth it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Sorry, I know I'm usually more of a positive person. This was kind of a frustrating endeavor for me, but I hope it helps. I hope if you've been humming and hawing and thinking about it, that maybe this will deter you from it or help you decide if you want to. Let me know if you want to dive into the other 2. To be honest, I'm quite terrified. This is the one I figured would have the most potential, and the fact that it just crashed and burned so hard, I don't know. But thank you for watching. If you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more content, usually more positive but still historic Brawl, standard Brawl related, give us a subscribe. But till then, have a good one.